Hello, I'm Bashaina Dimila, and I'm pleased to be with Luigi Ballerini, writer, poet, translator, and general editor of the Lorenzo Da Ponte Library. We'll be discussing the expulsion of the Triumphant Beast by Giordano Bruno, a recent publication, the Lorenzo Da Ponte Library. Welcome, Ballerini. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. I'd be happy to be here.
To start us off, can you briefly introduce yourself to our audience? And for listeners who may not be familiar, can you also tell us a little bit about Giordano Bruno?
Yes, indeed. Giordano Bruno was a relatively well-known philosopher in the late Renaissance, a traveler, a man of the cloth, who, despite the fact that he was a friar, thought in terms that would create him a number of problems because they were certainly not in conformity with the religion he officially professed. So much so that he ended up burnt alive at stake in Piazza in Rome. There's a rather attractive monument now when celebrating, I should say, celebrating by those who supported Giordano Bruno and celebrating the endurance of his philosophy, of his thought, and of course deprecating the rather tragic end that he met with. Now, Giordano Bruno was also a traveler, so he spent a lot of time in England, in the Republic of Venice, which then was an independent republic. And he was eventually caught by the Inquisition, brought to Rome, and executed. But the reason why we are keen in publishing his work and making it available in good editions to the larger English speaking community is precisely because he's ranks among those philosophers, people of letters and thinkers, etc., artists and economists who originated in Italy but really dialogue with the rest of the world. This is why the Lorenzo da Ponte includes Giordano Bruno. Actually, he seems particularly fit
Mhm.
in that series because of this international approach that he had, and certainly radical approach in terms of the official philosophy of the time. So we are going to publish the whole opus of Giordano Bruno. So far, we have published 3 volumes. He wrote in Latin as well as in Italian. And we published so far 3 of his Italian dialogues, but we are now in the process of editing, actually translating and editing the first Latin dialogue on the shadow of things, the umbris on the shadows of ideas, the umbris idearum, of which there are translations. You see, sometimes there is a translation already, but it's really not less than adequate. And so in those cases, we just start from scratch, afresh. And this is what we're doing with Giordano Bruno.
You mentioned that he writes both in Latin and in Italian. Is there a difference in his writing based on the language he chooses to write in?
Not really. I mean, some of his texts were devoted to a mnemotechnic technique. That is to say, he was convinced that he could teach people how to remember things. We are talking about an age without computers, without any mnemonic age except the human's brain. Okay. And so he and others developed techniques to remember. That's why we call him memnotechnic. And so some of his works are dedicated to that. But some of the other works are dedicated to cosmological problems and most important to ethical problems. The book that we just, well, the latest of our Giordano Bruno's title, deals with, in a form of dialogue, with the replacement of beasts from the universe with actually negative beast with positive beast. Vices are to be thrown out and virtues have to be brought in. All this under the fiction of a gathering of gods by Jove, by Jupiter, but that's normal. In the Renaissance, people felt very much akin to the ancient Greeks and Romans, and so it goes without saying that the setup, the setting of the book is really that of a congregation of gods. But the issue is things have gone bad. Humanities have corrupted itself, and gods have to gather and decide whether to endorse Jupiter's project of expelling, dispatching the triumphant beast of vices and replacing it with animals that are virtuous. Now, this is made easy by the fact that if you look at the constellations, they are quite often imagined as animals, right? Like the big bear, the Capricorn, and so on and so forth. So Giordano Bruno is a nice opportunity there to play with the mythological figures and investing them with moral values.
Yeah, that seems really interesting. As someone who's into
Yeah.
philosophy, that is something that I'm really interested in. Do you think other contemporary readers will have the same interests?
Strangely enough, there is some sort of a international club of devotees to Giordano Bruno. I suppose that that's also because of the really unfair way in which he was treated by his own church, the, the, the Catholic Church. We are talking about a period after the schism, after the separation. You know, the church, Christian church broke down. And Giordano Bruno is not very sympathetic to Protestants either. He has his own mind, but certainly his thought is radical and nonconformist, and therefore inevitably he ran against the officialdom of Rome.
Mm.
They could not afford to have Giordano Bruno on the loose, you see. What happened, however, now is that so first you have this heroic figure to begin with, and then also he's a forerunner in many ways of cosmological intuitions about the infinity of the universe or the finitude of the that are coming to the table right now. So I think there is a good chance that people might be interested in reading him.
The Expulsion of the Triumphant Beast is often seen as Bruno's most complex and allegorical text. For readers encountering for the first time, what should they expect?
Well, maybe they should start with Ash Wednesday or easier a dialogue. It is true; it is complicated, but it's also very how should I say, seductive because anyone who has anyone who has even a vague idea of mythology can easily imagine Mount Olympus,
Mhm.
Jupiter gathering his gods, discussing with them, and so the idea that the idea of perennially looking down at humans and see how corrupt they have become. It's a leitmotif. I mean, every once in a while in the history of philosophy, you have this necessity. In fact, even the Jewish and Christian God does that every once in a while. Before you know it, there's a flood. So this is couched in Greek mythology, but it's the same idea.
Well, yeah, thank you so much for discussing this remarkable text. The Expulsion of the Triumphant Beast is out right now. You can find it wherever you get your books. Thank you.